I pulled into the driveway around 6:30, same as always. 43 years old today. The truck's heater had quit working 2 weeks back and my fingers were stiff on the wheel. November dark came early now, sky the color of old iron, that particular cold that makes your teeth ache. I could smell road salt and exhaust on my jacket as I climbed out, boots crunching on frost that hadn't melted all day. Didn't expect much tonight. Maybe dinner, maybe a cake if Vanessa remembered to pick one up. That would have been fine. But when I opened the front door, the apartment smelled like her perfume multiplied by 7. Wine and women's laughter, sharp and performative. The living room was full of them, sitting around our dining table with glasses catching the lamplight, forced smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. I recognized most of them, Vanessa's yoga friends, that networking group. "Hey," I said, setting my keys down. The metal was still cold enough to stick to my skin. Didn't know we were having company. Vanessa stood, smoothing down that dress, the $200 one. "Surprise," she said, but her tone wasn't celebrating anything. "We're having a little gathering. For your birthday." The women at the table exchanged glances. A few were already smirking. I walked past them to the kitchen, grabbed a Corona from the fridge. When I came back, they were all watching. "So," Vanessa said, louder now, making sure everyone could hear, "I've been thinking a lot about our marriage, about how things need to change." She pulled out her phone, had notes written down. "Starting today, we're implementing some new rules." I took a sip of beer, didn't say anything, just watched. "First, you need to start asking permission before making plans with your friends. I need to know where you are." One of her friends nodded enthusiastically. "Boundaries are so important." "Second," Vanessa continued, "you need to do more around the house. I shouldn't have to ask you." I almost laughed. I worked 50 hours a week at the distribution center. She worked 25 at a boutique. "And third," she paused for effect, "you need to contribute more financially. I'm tired of feeling like I'm carrying this household." That one got me. I set the beer down. "Contribute more financially," I repeated. "Yes, we need to be equal partners." The friends were all nodding now. One of them, Harper, I think, actually started clapping. Then another joined. Within seconds, they were all applauding like Vanessa had just delivered the Gettysburg Address. "My husband needed this talk too," one said. "Exactly. They need structure." I looked at each face around that table. The smug expressions, the absolute certainty. Vanessa was beaming, feeding off it. "So," she said, crossing her arms, "what do you think?" I took another drink, longer this time. Then I set the bottle down and smiled. "I think," I said slowly, "that I have an announcement of my own to make." The room got quieter. "But first, I need to grab some documents from my office. Give me 5 minutes." Behind me on the hallway table, barely visible in the dim light, sat a brown folder I'd left there 3 days ago. None of them noticed it, but I did. I walked down the hallway, hearing the confused murmurs behind me. Someone asked Vanessa what I was talking about. She said she had no idea, but her voice had lost some of that confidence. In my office, I opened the file cabinet, third drawer down. The folder was exactly where I'd left it when I'd finished putting everything together. Bank statements, credit card bills, screenshots, receipts, all of it organized, chronological, undeniable. I'd been waiting for the right moment. Didn't think it would be tonight, but Vanessa had made her choice. Through the thin walls, I could hear one of the women saying something about healthy communication and setting expectations. The radiator clanked and hissed, pushing dry heat through the apartment. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the street, its engine loud in the November quiet. I grabbed the folder and walked back. All eyes turned to me as I sat down on the couch, folder in my lap. "All right," I said, looking directly at Vanessa. "Let's talk about rules and contributions and equality." Vanessa's face went pale. "What are you doing?" "Just making my announcement, like I promised." I opened the folder. The paper rustled, crisp and official sounding in the silence. "So Vanessa mentioned I need to contribute more financially. Let's break that down." I pulled out the first document, bank statement from our joint checking account, 3 months' worth. This is September, my paycheck, $2,100 after taxes deposited on the 15th. Her paycheck, $740, deposited on the 20th. "Stop it," Vanessa said, standing up. "This is private." "You made it public when you announced your rules in front of your friends. Sit down." She didn't, but she didn't leave either. I continued. "Rent on this place is $1,300 a month. I pay it. Every month. I pulled out another statement. Utilities average $200. I pay that too. Car insurance for both vehicles, $180, me again. Harper was staring at her wine glass now, not so enthusiastic anymore. Groceries, I went on, pulling out credit card statements. I do the shopping every Sunday, $150 to $200 a week. That's my card. I spread the receipts across the coffee table. The paper made a sound like wind through leaves. And before anyone asks, yes, I cook most of the dinners too, Monday through Thursday at least. I get home first. This is humiliating, Vanessa said. Her voice was shaking. On your birthday. Oh, we're just getting started. I pulled out October's statement. My check, same amount. Your check, $740. But look at this. I pointed to a specific line. $470 at Nordstrom, $320 at that boutique downtown, $215 at the spa. One of the friends, Quinn, I think, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The leather creaked under her. I work hard for my money, Vanessa said defensively. I deserve to treat myself. Absolutely, I agreed. With your money, not mine. I reached for my phone, opened the screenshots folder. See, about 4 months ago, I noticed you were going out a lot. Tuesday lunches, Thursday afternoon coffee meetings. You said it was networking, building professional connections. Vanessa's face went from pale to ashen. Networking is important, one of her friends offered weakly. It is, I nodded. Except these weren't networking meetings. I held up my phone, showed the first screenshot, text message between Vanessa and someone named Drew. Do you want to tell them who Drew is? I asked. Or should I? The apartment was completely silent now except for the radiator's steady hiss and the distant sound of someone's television through the walls. You went through my phone, Vanessa shouted. Your phone was open on the kitchen counter. You got a message while you were in the shower. It popped up on the screen. I kept my voice level. I didn't have to go through anything. It was just sitting there. The message on the screen read, "Can't wait to see you Thursday. Same place." Drew Callahan, I said to the room, used to work with Vanessa at her old job. They've been meeting up regularly for the past 4 months. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, sometimes Saturdays when I'm working overtime. We're just friends, Vanessa insisted, but her voice cracked. Friends. I repeated the word like I was tasting something bitter. Let me show you the receipts then. I laid them out one by one. The paper whispered against the coffee table's wood surface. Lunch at Romano's Bistro, $85. Lunch at the Copper Table, $92. Drinks at Harvest Bar, $67. I looked up at her. All charged to the credit card that I pay off every month. You were using my money to wine and dine your friend Drew. The silence in the room was suffocating. You could hear someone's breath catching, the faint tick of the wall clock, the muffled bass from a neighbor's music downstairs. One of the friends had her hand over her mouth. Another was staring at Vanessa like she'd never seen her before. It's not what you think, Vanessa said. Tears were forming now. We never did anything. We just talked. About what? I scrolled through my phone, the screen's blue light reflecting off the wine glasses on the table. Because based on these messages, you spend a lot of time complaining about me. I read from the screen. He's so controlling about money, acts like I'm not allowed to spend anything. I scrolled down. Or this one. Sometimes I wonder why I even married him. He doesn't understand me at all. The apartment smelled like wine and perfume, and something else now. Fear, maybe. Sweat. The sharp tang of adrenaline. Or my personal favorite, I continued. Drew gets me in a way he never could. Harper was gathering her purse. I think I should go. No, I said. Stay. You were so enthusiastic about Vanessa's new rules 10 minutes ago. I want you to hear the rest. She froze, caught between the door and the table. I found out about Drew 3 months ago, I explained. At first I was angry, thought about confronting both of them, making a scene, but then I realized something. I looked around at their faces. This wasn't about Drew, this was about a pattern. I pulled out printed screenshots from Facebook, from their group chats. Vanessa has a habit of telling stories, her version of events. To you all, I'm the villain, the controlling husband who doesn't appreciate her, doesn't support her dreams, doesn't contribute enough. The radiator clanked again, loud in the quiet. But none of you knew I pay 80% of our bills. None of you knew she barely works part-time by choice, not necessity. None of you knew she's been meeting up with an ex-colleague on my dime, using my work schedule against me. Quinn spoke up quietly. She told us you were always criticizing her spending. I asked her once why she needed a $200 dress when we had a car payment due. I suggested we wait a month until the next paycheck. She agreed at the time. I looked at Vanessa. That became me being controlling. I suggested we should both contribute equally to groceries, I continued. That became me being cheap. This is so messed up, another friend muttered. Vanessa was crying now, full mascara running, shoulder-shaking tears. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, she said. Trying to build a career, trying to maintain friendships, trying to be a good wife. A good wife? I repeated the words slowly. Let them hang there. I pulled out the last document, the one I'd been saving. This, I said, holding it up, is a consultation summary from a divorce attorney. I met with him last week, discussed the division of assets, the timeline, the process. The room went completely still. Even the radiator seemed to hold its breath. What? Vanessa whispered. My announcement, I said, looking directly at her. The one I wanted to make tonight. You wanted new rules for our marriage. Here's mine. There won't be a marriage. You can't be serious. The papers will be filed Friday morning. You'll be served by Monday. I kept my voice steady, matter of fact. This apartment is in my name. Inheritance money from my uncle helped with the down payment. You'll need to find somewhere else to stay within 30 days. One of the friends stood up abruptly. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We didn't know. Her chair scraped against the floor, harsh and final. She never told us any of this. Another joined her. Yeah, I feel awful for how we treated you tonight. Vanessa looked at them desperately. Wait, you're leaving? You're supposed to be my friends. You lied to us, Harper said quietly. She was putting on her coat, the fabric rustling. About everything. We thought we were supporting you through a difficult marriage, but you were just using us to validate treating him like garbage. Quinn walked over to me. The floorboards creaked under her weight. I went through something similar with my ex-husband. He did the same thing, twisted every story. I'm really sorry we bought into it. One by one, her friends stood up, grabbing coats and purses. Each one apologized, some more sincerely than others. The door opened and closed, letting in blasts of cold November air that smelled like car exhaust and dead leaves. Within 5 minutes, the apartment was empty except for me and Vanessa. She stood there, surrounded by empty wine glasses and the ruins of her performance, crying. You humiliated me, she said. No, I corrected. You humiliated yourself. I just told the truth. We can fix this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I closed the folder and stood up. The leather creaked under me as I rose. I don't want to fix it, I said. I want it to end. I walked to the guest bedroom, the one I'd been secretly preparing for the past week. My clothes were already in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom. The sheets smelled like detergent, clean, impersonal, new. I'd been ready for this conversation, just didn't expect it to happen at a birthday party. Happy birthday to me, I muttered, closing the door behind me. Through the wall, I could hear Vanessa crying. Long, ragged sobs that shook the quiet apartment. The sound traveled through the drywall like it was trying to reach me, pull me back. I felt nothing. I sat on the edge of the bed, a twin I'd bought used off Craigslist 2 weeks ago, and pulled off my boots. They thudded against the floor, still carrying the warehouse smell of cardboard dust and forklift exhaust. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the window frame. November pushing its way in. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 34 text messages, all from Vanessa. I didn't read them, didn't need to. I knew exactly what they'd say. Apologies mixed with accusations, promises mixed with threats, the usual cycle. I got dressed, made coffee in the kitchen while she stayed locked in our bedroom. Her bedroom now, I guess. The coffee maker gurgled and hissed, filling the apartment with a smell that was almost normal. Almost like any other Friday morning. At the warehouse, nobody knew what had happened. That was fine. I wasn't looking for sympathy or advice. Just wanted to load pallets and go home. The work was good, mindless, physical. The forklifts beeping and the radio playing classic rock and the other guys joking about the Lions game. Normal. Around lunch, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again. Same number. Third time, I answered. Is this about the Bradley residence? A woman's voice asked. Professional. Careful. Depends who's asking. This is Paige from Sunset Property Management. Your wife called this morning asking about breaking the lease early. I'm calling to confirm. Are you both planning to vacate? I almost laughed. No, just her. The lease is in my name only. She has no authority to break it. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, she said it was a joint lease. She says a lot of things, I replied. Check your records. My name, my signature, my deposit. Got it. Thank you for clarifying. I hung up and texted my attorney. She's already trying to mess with the apartment. Might want to send that letter sooner than Monday. He responded within minutes. We'll expedite. Should be delivered tomorrow. When I got home that evening, Vanessa was sitting on the couch, laptop open, tissues scattered around her like snow. She looked up when I walked in. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Please, just 5 minutes. I set my keys down. The metal clinked against the hallway table. Grabbed a water from the fridge. It was so cold it hurt my teeth when I drank. You've got 3. She closed the laptop. The snap echoed in the quiet. I called a marriage counselor. Dr. Sheffield. She has amazing reviews. She can see us next Wednesday. Not interested. You won't even try? Her voice broke. After 7 years, you won't even try to save this? 7 years. I repeated the number like I was testing its weight. You know what I did for 7 years? Worked my tail off while you figured out your career, supported your boutique job that pays minimum wage because you said it made you happy. Covered rent, bills, groceries, everything because you needed time to find yourself. I took another drink. The apartment was too warm now, the heat cranked up the way she always liked it. I could smell the Indian takeout she'd ordered, curry and cardamom, still sitting in containers on the counter. And what did you do? Complained to your friends that I was controlling. Met up with Drew behind my back, spent money we didn't have, then had the nerve to announce rules for me at my own birthday party. I made mistakes, she admitted. But you're not perfect either. You shut me out emotionally. You never want to talk about feelings. Because every time I brought up something that bothered me, you turned it into an argument about how I was attacking you, I said. I mentioned the credit card bill once, and you didn't talk to me for 3 days. She looked away. The lamp cast shadows across her face. That's not fair. 3 days of silent treatment because I asked about a $400 charge. I shook my head. You want to talk about emotional manipulation? Start there. My phone buzzed. Text from Quinn, one of Vanessa's friends from last night. Hey, I know this is weird, but I wanted to reach out. What happened last night has been bothering me. Can we talk sometime? I showed Vanessa the screen. Her face went red. Don't you dare. Dare what? Have a conversation? You don't get to control who I talk to anymore. She's my friend. Was your friend, I corrected. Pretty sure that changed when she realized you'd been lying to her for months. Outside, a car alarm went off, shrill and insistent, cutting through the November night. Vanessa stood up, started pacing. Her footsteps were heavy on the hardwood, back and forth like a trapped animal. This is insane, she said. You're blowing up our entire life over what? Some text messages, some lunches? You think this is about Drew? I shook my head. This is about respect. You don't respect me, haven't for a long time. Maybe you never did. That's not true. Then why did you feel the need to humiliate me in front of your friends? Why announce your new rules publicly instead of having a private conversation? She didn't answer. Couldn't. Because you wanted them to see you put me in my place, as I said. You wanted validation. You wanted to feel powerful. The papers were delivered the next morning, Saturday. I was making coffee when someone knocked. The process server was young, maybe 25, looked uncomfortable. Handed me the clipboard to sign, handed Vanessa the envelope. She stared at it like it might bite her. I'm not kicking you out on the street, I said after he left. But I'm not living like this either. 30 days. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. You've got friends, family, figure it out. She grabbed her phone. Her hands were shaking. I'm calling my mother. Good idea. Maybe she can explain why lying to your spouse and spending their money on secret meetups is a bad idea. Vanessa stormed into the bedroom. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames on the wall. I could hear her voice rising, talking to her mother, crying, painting me as the villain again, probably. The walls in this place were thin as paper. I'd heard every late-night phone call she'd made over the years, though I'd never said anything about them. My phone buzzed. Harper this time. I owe you an apology. A genuine one. Can I buy you coffee tomorrow? I want to explain why we were so quick to believe her version of things. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to ignore it, cut ties with everyone connected to Vanessa. But another part was curious. Tomorrow. 11. Corner brew on 5th. Thank you. See you then. The bedroom door opened. Vanessa came out, phone still in her hand, eyes puffy. The apartment smelled like the coffee I'd made, bitter and strong. My mom wants to talk to you. Tell her hi. She wants to mediate. Help us work through this. I actually laughed. Your mother, who thinks I'm not good enough for you, who told you at our wedding that you were settling, wants to mediate our divorce. Pass. Vanessa's face crumpled. You heard that? I was standing 10 feet away. She wasn't exactly whispering. The memory came back sharp and clear. April rain outside the venue, her mother leaning over during the vows, stage whispering to her sister just loud enough. She's settling. I'd heard it. Vanessa had heard it. Neither of us said anything. Maybe that's where the silence started. Not as strength, but as a wound that never healed. I defended you, Vanessa said weakly. After she said it, I pointed out, you didn't shut it down immediately. You waited to see if anyone else agreed first. She sat back down on the couch, defeated. The leather creaked under her weight. Outside, someone was scraping ice off their car windshield, that distinctive scratching sound that meant winter wasn't done with us yet. I don't know what to do, she said. Start looking for apartments. You've got 30 days. I can't afford rent on my own. Should have thought about that before implementing your new rules. She looked at me with something between anger and desperation. You're enjoying this. No, I said honestly. I'm not. But I'm not losing sleep over it either. This marriage was over a long time ago. We both just pretended it wasn't. My phone rang. Unknown number again. I walked out to the balcony, sliding the glass door closed behind me. The November air hit me like a slap, cold enough to make my eyes water, smelling like snow that hadn't fallen yet, in the Chinese restaurant downstairs. Hello? Is this about Drew and Vanessa? A male voice asked, nervous, young-sounding. Who is this? Drew Callahan. He paused. Look, I don't want any trouble. Vanessa called me crying, said you found out about our lunches. Your lunches, I repeated, keeping my voice flat. Nothing happened, he said quickly. We're just friends. I'm married. I've got 2 kids. It was innocent. Does your wife know about these innocent lunches? Silence. That's what I thought, I said. Here's the thing, Drew. I don't care if you slept with her or not. What I care about is that my wife was spending my money to meet up with you while lying to me about where she was. That's enough. Man, I'm sorry. I didn't know the situation. She made it sound like you two were practically separated. We weren't, but we are now. And look, Drew said. And I could hear traffic in the background. A car door closing. I'm going to stop talking to her. Cut contact completely. I don't need this drama in my life. Smart move. I hung up and stood there for a moment. The balcony railing was cold enough to burn against my palms. 3 stories down, someone was walking their dog, the animal's breath coming out in white puffs, life just continuing like normal while mine fell apart. Through the glass, I could see Vanessa watching me from the couch. When I came back inside, she asked, "Was that him?" "Yeah." "What did he say?" "That he's done. You're on your own." She looked like I'd slapped her. The color drained from her face. He said that? Basically. Turns out when things get complicated, people disappear. She put her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. Everything's falling apart. No, I corrected. Everything fell apart months ago. You're just noticing now. I grabbed my laptop and sat at the kitchen table. Started browsing apartments online, looking for something smaller, cheaper, studio apartments in decent neighborhoods, 1 bedrooms farther out. I could downsize, save money, start fresh. The cursor clicked through listing after listing, each one a possible future that didn't include her. Vanessa watched me from the couch. You're really doing this? I really am. What about counseling? What about trying? I tried for 7 years, I said without looking up. Your turn to try something new, like honesty, like accountability, like being single. She didn't respond, just sat there, surrounded by her tissues and her tears and the consequences of her choices. My phone buzzed one more time. Quinn again. Harper told me you're meeting her tomorrow. Can I come too? I think we owe you more than just an apology. I thought about it for a moment, then replied, sure. 11. Corner brew. The apartment felt different now. The same furniture, the same walls, but the air itself had changed, like something had broken loose and could finally move. Sunday morning, I walked into Corner Brew 10 minutes early. The place smelled like fresh pastries and espresso, that roasted coffee bitterness mixing with cinnamon and butter. Saturday morning crowd filing in for their caffeine fix. I ordered black coffee, found a table near the window where pale winter sunlight was trying to break through the clouds. Harper arrived first, looking nervous. She was carrying a folder which seemed odd for a coffee apology. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, sitting down. Her coat rustled as she shrugged it off. "I wasn't sure you'd actually show." "I'm curious," I admitted. "Why the sudden change of heart?" She opened her folder before answering. Inside were printed screenshots, text messages. "Because after I got home Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Vanessa had told us versus what you showed us." She slid the first screenshot across the table. The paper whispered against the wood. So I went through my phone. The screenshot showed a group chat from 6 months ago. Vanessa texting about how I'd refused to let her buy a new couch, called me controlling, said I threw a fit over redecorating. "What's the actual story?" Harper asked. "We needed new tires for her car," I said. Inspection was due. I suggested we hold off on the couch for a month until the next paycheck. She agreed at the time, then apparently went and told you all I was controlling. Harper nodded slowly. "That's what I figured." Quinn walked in then, saw us at the table, ordered her coffee. The espresso machine hissed and groaned behind the counter. She joined us, wrapping her hands around her cup for warmth. "Morning," she said. "Morning." Harper showed Quinn the screenshots. "I was just showing him how Vanessa framed things." Quinn pulled out her own phone. "Yeah, I've been looking through old messages, too. It's bad. Everything she told us was twisted." She showed me another message thread. This one about how I'd supposedly ruined Vanessa's birthday last year by refusing to take her out to dinner. "I worked a double shift that day," I explained. "My coworker's kid was in the hospital. I came home exhausted at midnight. We celebrated that weekend instead. Went to that Italian place downtown, the expensive one. Cost me $160. "She never mentioned any of that," Quinn said quietly. "Just that you forgot her birthday." Harper leaned back in her chair. It creaked under her. "This is messed up. We've been enablers. We thought we were supporting a friend through a difficult marriage, but we were just helping her justify treating you like garbage." "Why?" I asked. "Why were you all so quick to believe her version?" Quinn and Harper exchanged a glance. The cafe's background noise filled the space. Milk steaming, people talking, someone's phone ringing. Quinn spoke first. "Because some of us have been through bad relationships. My ex-husband was genuinely controlling, monitored my phone, questioned every purchase, isolated me from friends." She wrapped her hands tighter around her coffee cup. "When I finally left him, my therapist told me about financial abuse, emotional manipulation, all of it. So when Vanessa talked about you questioning her spending, it sounded familiar," Harper continued, "like warning signs we'd been taught to recognize. Except you weren't questioning her spending, you were asking her to contribute. There's a difference." "We know that now," Quinn admitted. "But in the moment, hearing her side, it fit a pattern we recognized, or thought we did." Harper pulled out another screenshot. "This one's from 3 months ago. She told us you'd started working overtime just to avoid being home with her." I almost laughed. "I work overtime because the distribution center offers time and a half on weekends. I've been saving for a down payment on a house, a bigger place. She kept saying the apartment was too small." "Did she know that?" Harper asked. "I told her every time I picked up an extra shift, even showed her the savings account balance once. She said it wasn't enough, that we needed more before we could even think about buying." Quinn shook her head. The movement stirred her coffee, sent the smell of hazelnut creamer into the air. "She told us you were hoarding money, keeping her on a tight budget while you spent freely." "I don't spend freely," I said. "I buy groceries, pay bills, and put everything else in savings. My last personal purchase was a pair of work boots 3 months ago, $42 at the outlet mall." Someone called out a name at the counter. A college kid grabbed their drink and left, letting in a blast of cold air that smelled like exhaust in winter. "I need to ask something," Harper said carefully. "The Drew situation, do you think they actually had an affair?" "Honestly, I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't." I took a drink of coffee. It was still hot enough to burn. "But here's what I do know. She was meeting up with him regularly, lying about where she was, spending money I earned on expensive lunches, texting him about how I didn't understand her. That's emotional cheating at minimum. At minimum, Quinn agreed. And even if nothing physical happened, the disrespect was enough. She chose to confide in him instead of talking to you. She chose to trash talk you to us instead of addressing issues directly. She chose to humiliate you at your own birthday party instead of having a private conversation. Harper closed her folder. The sound was final, definitive. For what it's worth, I'm genuinely sorry. We should have questioned things more, should have asked for your side. Most people don't, I said. They hear one version of a story from someone they trust and they accept it. It's human nature. Still doesn't make it right, Quinn added. She hesitated, then asked, "What happens now, with the divorce?" Papers were served yesterday morning. She has 30 days to move out. We'll split what little joint property we have, which isn't much. The apartment's mine. Savings account is mine. She can take the furniture she bought with her credit cards. Where will she go? Her mother's, probably. Or maybe she'll move in with one of her other friends. I looked at them pointedly. Assuming she has any left after Thursday night. Quinn winced. Most of the group chat has gone quiet. Nobody knows what to say. A couple people defended her at first, said you were being cruel, but then others started sharing their own stories about things she'd said that didn't add up. Like what? Like she told someone you refused to let her go back to school, Harper said. But you'd mentioned to me once that you offered to help pay for classes if she wanted to finish her degree. I did offer, I confirmed. She said she'd think about it, never brought it up again. Then apparently it became another example of me being unsupportive. My phone buzzed. Text from my attorney. Papers delivered. She refused to sign initially, but the process server left them anyway. Legal protocol followed. I showed them the message. She's going to fight this, isn't she? Quinn asked. Probably, but there's not much to fight over. No kids, no shared property beyond some furniture, no significant assets. It'll be fast and clean unless she tries to claim I owe her support. Spousal support? Harper suggested. Alimony? She can try, I said. But I've got documentation showing she chose to work part-time. I've got proof I offered to support her going back to school. I've got texts where she turned down full-time job offers because the hours weren't convenient. Quinn pulled up something on her phone. Her face changed. Uncomfortable. What? I asked. Vanessa just posted on social media. She turned the phone so I could see. The post was vague but pointed. When you give everything to someone and they throw it away over one mistake. Feeling heartbroken, comments were already rolling in, friends asking if she was okay, offering support, saying whoever hurt her didn't deserve her. She's not mentioning your name, Harper noted, but everyone who knows you both will know who she's talking about. Let her, I said. I'm not getting into a social media war. People who matter know the truth. Everyone else can think what they want. You're not going to defend yourself? Quinn asked. Why would I? The kind of people who make judgments based on vague social media posts aren't people whose opinions matter to me. Harper smiled slightly. That's probably the healthiest attitude I've heard in a while. We talked for another 20 minutes. They shared more examples of how Vanessa had twisted situations, painted herself as a victim, positioned me as the antagonist in a story she'd been writing for years. The coffee shop filled up around us. Weekend crowd, families with kids, couples reading the paper. Normal December life happening while we dissected the anatomy of a failed marriage. When we finally stood to leave, Quinn grabbed my arm gently. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you feel guilty at all? I thought about it honestly. Outside the window, someone was trying to start their car. The engine turned over and over, struggling in the cold. No, I said. I feel relieved. I feel like I've been carrying a weight for 7 years and finally put it down. Good, she said, because you shouldn't feel guilty. You tried. You more than tried. Harper paid for her coffee and headed out first, letting in another blast of cold air that smelled like car exhaust and someone's cigarette smoke. Quinn lingered. My ex-husband, she said quietly. The controlling one I mentioned. After I left him, it took me 2 years to trust anyone again. 2 years to believe that not every relationship was going to be that way. What made you finally trust again? I asked. Meeting someone who respected me, she said simply. Someone who listened, who compromised, who treated me like an equal partner, and realizing that my ex's behavior wasn't normal, wasn't acceptable, wasn't something I had to endure. She smiled. I hope you find that too. Someone who appreciates what you bring to the table. Thanks. She left. I sat back down, finished my coffee, watched people walk by outside through the frosted window. Couples holding hands, friends laughing, dogs pulling their owners down the sidewalk, their breath coming out in white clouds. December, cold settling in hard now, the kind that made your bones ache. My phone buzzed again, Vanessa this time. Harper and Quinn told me they met with you. You're turning my friends against me. This is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior I was talking about. I stared at the message for a long moment. The cursor blinked, waiting for a response. Then I deleted it without responding. She didn't deserve my energy anymore. Didn't deserve my time, my attention, my emotional labor. I stood up, tossed my empty cup in the trash, and walked out into the Saturday morning cold. For the first time in years, I had plans that didn't involve managing Vanessa's feelings, or walking on eggshells, or wondering what version of me she was complaining about to her friends. I was going to the hardware store. Then I was going to repaint the guest bedroom, make it actually mine. Small steps toward a bigger life. And I was taking them alone. On my own terms, finally. 2 weeks into the separation, Vanessa finally hired an attorney. I knew because mine called me Tuesday afternoon while I was on lunch break at the warehouse. I was sitting in my truck, eating a sandwich that tasted like nothing, when the phone rang. She's claiming she's entitled to half the value of the apartment, he said, also requesting temporary spousal support. I almost choked on my sandwich. Based on what? Based on her contributing to the household during your marriage. By working part-time and spending more than she earned, apparently. Her attorney is going to argue she sacrificed career opportunities to support your household. I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound echoed in the truck cab. I have texts where she turned down full-time positions because she wanted flexible hours. I have bank statements showing every cent I put into this place. Good, my attorney said, because here's where it gets interesting. The apartment was purchased with inheritance money from your uncle. That makes it separate property, not marital. She didn't contribute anything. Relief washed over me. Through the truck windshield, I could see the other guys heading back inside, their breath visible in the December cold. Not according to the deed and mortgage records, he continued. Your name only, your money only. She has no claim. What about spousal support? She'd have to prove she can't support herself and that you have the means to pay. Given that she's capable of working full-time and chooses not to, and given that your income is modest, no judge is awarding her ongoing support. So basically, she gets nothing. She gets whatever personal property she brought into the marriage and anything you agree to give her. But legally, she's not entitled to the apartment or ongoing financial support. When's the court date? 3 weeks. But honestly, I expect her attorney will advise her to settle once they review the documentation. He was right. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. This is Vanessa's attorney, Mr. Walsh. I'd like to discuss a settlement. I'm listening. My client is willing to forego any claim to the apartment in exchange for $10,000 and half the furniture. I was at the warehouse, standing near the loading dock. A truck was backing up, its backup alarm beeping insistently. The air smelled like diesel and cardboard. Counteroffer, I said. $0 and she can take whatever furniture she personally purchased. I have receipts showing what I bought. Silence then. That's quite firm. It's fair. She contributed nothing to the down payment. She worked minimal hours by choice. She spent money we didn't have on clothes and lunches with Drew Callahan. I'm not rewarding that behavior with a payout. Mr. Callahan has nothing to do with the division of assets, he said stiffly. He has everything to do with why we're getting divorced, which your client conveniently left out when she hired you. More silence. I could hear papers rustling on his end. I'll discuss this with my client and get back to you. He called back Monday. She'll accept your terms. She wants to schedule movers for next weekend. Fine. I'll be out of the apartment that day. She can take what's hers. But that night, when I got home, Vanessa was waiting for me. She had a handwritten list on the coffee table. The apartment smelled like the Thai food she'd ordered. Lemongrass and fish sauce and something sweet. I've been going through everything, she said. Made a list of what I want to take. I looked at the list. Coffee table, bedroom set, kitchen table, bookshelf, TV stand. These are things I bought, I said, pointing. Before we got married. I have the receipts. When we used them together for 7 years, she said. Her voice had an edge to it, desperate. That makes them ours. I went to my office, pulled out another folder, receipts from 7 years ago, IKEA for the coffee table, Ashley furniture for the bedroom set, Target for the bookshelf. All purchased 3 months before our wedding, I said, laying them out, with money I saved from my previous job. She stared at the receipts like they were a foreign language, then her face crumpled. We can fix this, she said. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I'll do anything. And for a moment, just a moment, I almost wavered. 7 years was a long time. We'd had good days mixed in with the bad. That first apartment with the broken heater, the trip to her sister's wedding where we got lost and laughed about it, the time she brought me soup when I had the flu. But then I remembered the birthday party, the applause, the Drew texts, the way she'd spent months telling her friends I was the problem while spending my money behind my back. I remembered standing at our wedding, hearing her mother say, "She's settling," and Vanessa waiting to see if anyone else would agree before defending me. "I don't want to fix it," I said. "I want it to end." Her face shifted, from desperate to angry in an instant. "My attorney says I'm entitled to half the apartment value," she said, the threat clear in her voice. "Have him call mine," I replied calmly. She stood up, the list crumpling in her hand. "You know what your problem is? You can't forgive. You hold on to things. You never let anything go." "I let you go," I said. "Took me 7 years, but I finally did it." She grabbed her coat from the closet. The hangers scraped against the rod, harsh and metallic. "I'm staying at my mother's tonight." "Okay. I'll be back tomorrow to pack." "The movers come Saturday. Make sure you're done by then." She walked to the door, then stopped, turned back. "Do you really feel nothing?" she asked, "after everything we had?" I thought about it, really thought about it. The radiator clanked. Outside, someone was shoveling their walkway, the scrape of metal on concrete rhythmic and steady. "I feel sad," I said honestly. "Sad that it took me this long to see what was happening. Sad that we wasted 7 years. But angry? Hurt? No, I'm done with those." "That's worse," she said quietly. "Feeling nothing is worse." She left. The door closed with a soft click, not a slam. I stood there in the apartment that was mine now, really mine. Looked around at the furniture we'd argued about, the space we'd shared, the life we'd tried to build, and realized she was wrong. Feeling nothing wasn't worse, it was freedom. I called my attorney that night. She came by with a furniture list, I said. Tried to claim things I bought before the marriage. "Did you show her receipts?" "Yeah." "Good." Her attorney called me this afternoon. They're accepting the settlement. No money, just her personal property. She's moving out this Saturday. That fast? Once they saw the documentation, the inheritance papers, the bank statements, the text messages, where she turned down full-time work, they realized they had no case. Smart attorney knows when to fold. I sat on my couch that I'd bought with my money 7 years ago, and felt something settle in my chest. Not happiness, not yet, but something close to it. Peace, maybe. Maybe. "What do I need to do?" I asked. "Be somewhere else Saturday. Let her take what's hers. Don't engage, don't argue, just let it happen." "I can do that. And after Saturday, it's over. Divorce will be finalized in about 90 days, but the hard part is done." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet apartment. The heat kicked on, rattling through the vents. Outside, the December wind picked up, making the windows creak. I thought about the guest bedroom I'd been sleeping in, how I'd prepared it weeks before the birthday party, how some part of me had known this was coming long before I admitted it to myself. Maybe silence wasn't just about not speaking. Maybe it was about listening to what you already knew. Saturday, I stayed at Connor's place. My buddy from the warehouse, divorced 3 years ago himself. He understood without me having to explain much. We watched college basketball, drank cheap beer, didn't talk about anything important. His apartment smelled like pizza and dog. He'd gotten a rescue mutt after his ex left, said it was better company. "How you holding up?" he asked during halftime. "Good," I said, and meant it. "Yeah?" "Yeah." He nodded, didn't push. Just grabbed 2 more beers from the fridge. My phone buzzed once around 3. Text from the moving company, job complete. Keys left on kitchen counter per instruction. That was it. 7 years, packed into a truck, and driven away in an afternoon. I went back Sunday evening, stood in the doorway for a minute before going in, key in hand. The metal was cold enough to sting my palm. Inside, I could hear the refrigerator humming. Nothing else. The apartment was half empty. Couch gone. She'd bought that one 2 years ago on credit. Decorative pieces gone, all hers. Kitchen table gone. Wedding gift from her aunt. The walls had lighter rectangles where pictures used to hang, ghost images of a marriage that didn't exist anymore. But it was mine. Completely, legally, finally mine. I ordered pizza, sat on the floor in the living room, back against the wall, eating straight from the box. The cardboard was still warm, smelling like grease and oregano and freedom. The apartment echoed now. My footsteps on hardwood sounded different without her rugs muffling them. My phone buzzed. Quinn, heard the settlement went through. How are you doing? Good. Really good, actually. Glad to hear it. You deserve peace. I looked around the sparse apartment. No more walking on eggshells. No more managing someone else's emotions. No more wondering what version of events was being shared behind my back. Just silence. Space. Possibility. Yeah, I texted back. I think I finally found it. Another text came through. Vanessa this time. I hope you're happy now. I stared at it for a long moment. Read it twice. Then I deleted it without finishing. Blocked her number. No hesitation anymore. The pizza was good. Simple. Exactly what I'd wanted. I'd bought the kind she hated. Pepperoni and jalapenos. And it tasted like victory. 6 months later, I was standing in my apartment on my 44th birthday. The place looked completely different now. New furniture I'd picked out myself. Nothing fancy, just solid and comfortable. A brown leather couch from the scratch and dent sale. A coffee table I'd built from a kit. Walls painted the colors I wanted. Gray in the living room, dark blue in the bedroom. A gym set up in the corner where the decorative cabinet used to be. Free weights and a pull-up bar. Simple, functional, mine. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Clean break. No drama in the end, despite Vanessa's initial threats. Her attorney had been smart enough to see they had no case. Vanessa had moved in with her mother, last I heard. Working full-time now at a retail management job. No choice anymore. Her social media had gone quiet after people started asking questions she couldn't answer. The vague posting hadn't worked out the way she'd hoped. Drew apparently got divorced too. His wife found out about the lunches. Didn't care that nothing physical happened, according to what Harper told me. Smart woman, that one. I'd reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage. Started lifting weights again. 43 years old felt different than 36, but I could still move the iron. Picked up the guitar I'd abandoned years ago. The strings were rusted, but my fingers remembered the chords. Some things don't need permission to come back to life. Small things that were just mine. Quinn texted me that morning, happy birthday. Any big plans? Few buddies coming over. Low-key. Perfect. That's great. You've come a long way. She was right. 6 months ago, I was sitting in a room full of people who thought I was the problem. Tonight, I'd be surrounded by people who actually knew me. Around 7, my friends started arriving. Connor brought beer, good beer this time, IPAs from that local brewery. Blake ordered pizza, 2 large, 1 with everything, 1 meat lovers. Nobody asked if I preferred white wine anymore. We watched the Pistons game, talked about work, made stupid jokes about Blake's new haircut. Nobody asked about Vanessa. That chapter was closed. Filed away. Done. Around halftime, Blake raised his beer. To another year of not putting up with nonsense. I'll drink to that, I said. We clinked bottles. Simple moment, but it meant everything. The game went to overtime. The pizza was gone. Connor's dog, he'd brought her over, a pit mix named Rosie, was sleeping under the coffee table, snoring softly. The apartment smelled like beer and pepperoni and friendship. Real friendship, not performance. Later that night, after everyone left, I stood on the balcony looking out at the city. May now, spring fully here, the air was warm, smelling like cut grass from the courtyard below and someone's charcoal grill firing up. The cold that had seemed so permanent back in November was just a memory now. I thought about last year's birthday, the ambush, the humiliation, the performance. Then I thought about tonight. Genuine friends, genuine laughs, genuine peace. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a second, just a second, I thought it might be Vanessa. It was a spam call, something about my car's extended warranty. I blocked it and went back inside. The apartment was quiet again, but this time the silence felt right, not empty, just calm. I grabbed the last beer from the fridge, sat on my couch, the one I'd picked out, brown leather that smelled like new beginnings and second chances. The cushions made that sound leather makes when it's still breaking in, creaking slightly under my weight. And I smiled. Actually smiled. The kind that comes from your chest, not your face. 44 years old, divorced, starting over, and happier than I'd been in years. Vanessa had wanted new rules for our marriage. Stand up straight. ask permission, contribute more, prove your worth. Instead, she'd given me something better, something I didn't know I needed until it was mine. Freedom, the freedom to eat pizza on the floor, to paint walls whatever color I wanted, to hang out with friends without checking in, to spend my money on things that mattered to me, to live in a space that didn't feel like a stage where I was constantly performing. The freedom to just be. And I wasn't giving that back for anything. Not for apologies, not for promises of change, not for 7 years of history, not for the comfort of familiar misery. I'd learned something sitting in that folder full of receipts, that pile of evidence I'd gathered month after month. Documentation wasn't just about proof, it was about clarity, about seeing things as they actually were, not as you hoped they'd be. Vanessa could keep her version of the story, could tell her new friends whatever she wanted about the controlling ex-husband who threw away a marriage over one mistake, could post her vague social media updates about heartbreak and betrayal. I had something better than a competing narrative. I had the truth, and I had peace. And on my 44th birthday, sitting in my apartment with the ghost of a good party still lingering in the air, that felt like enough. More than enough. It felt like everything. The weeks after my birthday settled into a rhythm I hadn't known in years. Work, gym, home, simple, uncomplicated, no one asking where I'd been or why I was late or who I'd talked to. Just life on my own terms. I'd found a studio apartment listing that night after Vanessa's birthday ambush. $900 a month, available December 1st. Saved it to my phone. But in the end, I'd kept this place. Paid for it, after all. Earned it. Why should I be the one to leave? Mid-June, I was at the hardware store picking up paint for the second bedroom, thinking about turning it into an office maybe, when I ran into Harper. She was in the gardening section, looking at tomato plants. "Hey," she said, genuinely pleased. "How are you?" "Good. Really good." "You look it," she smiled. Lighter, if that makes sense. It does. We talked for a few minutes. Small talk, easy. She mentioned she'd seen Quinn last week, that they'd been wondering how I was doing. "Actually," Harper said, lowering her voice slightly, "I ran into Vanessa last month, at Target." I waited, but didn't ask. If she wanted to tell me, she would. She moved about 3 hours away, working retail management now, no more part-time boutique work. Harper paused. She looked, I don't know, smaller somehow. Asked if I'd heard from you. "What did you say?" "That I'd seen you around, that you seemed happy." She adjusted her basket. She didn't ask anything else. I nodded, felt nothing, not satisfaction, not pity, just acknowledgement that she existed somewhere, living her life, same as me. "As for Drew," Harper added, "heard his ex-wife got primary custody. Apparently judges don't look kindly on secret lunch dates, even if they're just friends." "Actions have consequences," I said. "Yeah." And she picked up a tomato plant, examined it. "They do." We said goodbye, and I went back to browsing paint colors. Settled on a light gray, something neutral, clean. At the register, the kid ringing me up, couldn't have been more than 19, was complaining to his coworker about his girlfriend. How she was always mad about something, how he couldn't do anything right. "Maybe talk to her about it," the other kid said. "I do, man. She just says I'm not listening." I paid for my paint, grabbed the can. The metal handle was already warming in my grip. "Here's some free advice," I said to the kid. "If you're constantly wrong in someone's eyes, you're not in a relationship. You're in a performance, and nobody can keep performing forever." He looked at me like I'd just spoken Greek. "Whatever, old man," he muttered. I laughed. 44 wasn't old, but to him it probably seemed ancient. I walked out into the June sunshine, warm on my face, and didn't think about it again. That night, I painted the second bedroom, opened the windows, first time in months, and let the warm air in. It smelled like fresh paint and possibility in the beginning of summer. I could hear kids playing in the courtyard below, their laughter floating up through the screen. Someone was grilling burgers. A dog barked. Life. Normal, beautiful, boring life. I thought about Vanessa, briefly. Wondered if she'd found whatever she'd been looking for, if Drew had been worth it, if her mother's house was comfortable, if she ever thought about the birthday party and wished she'd done it differently. Then I let it go. Some questions didn't need answers. I finished the first wall as the sun set. The gray looked good, clean, new. I cleaned the brush in the bathroom sink, the water running paint-tinged down the drain. My phone sat on the counter, silent. No missed calls, no urgent messages, no drama, just quiet. I made a sandwich for dinner, turkey and Swiss, nothing fancy, and ate it standing at the kitchen counter. The apartment felt bigger now, even with my new furniture, like it had finally exhaled after holding its breath for 7 years. Later, I sat on the balcony with a beer. The evening was warm, that perfect June temperature where you don't need a jacket but can still feel the breeze. The city stretched out below me, lights coming on as darkness settled. Somewhere a couple was arguing. I could hear the raised voices, muffled by distance and walls. Somewhere else a baby was crying. Life in all its messy, complicated glory. But up here, on my balcony, in my apartment, it was peaceful. I thought about the folder, still had it, tucked away in the file cabinet. Probably always would, not as a weapon anymore, just as a reminder that silence isn't surrender, that preparation matters, that sometimes the quietest choice is the strongest one. My phone buzzed. Text from Connor. You coming to the lake next weekend? Blake's bringing his boat. Yeah, I'm in. Good. Bring beer. Simple. Easy. No hidden meaning. No performance required. I finished my beer and went inside. Tomorrow was Monday. Work in the morning. Gym after. Maybe I'd stop by that Thai place I liked, the one Vanessa always said was too spicy. Get the pad ki mao, extra hot, small freedoms, but they added up. I stood in my living room, with my furniture and my paint colors and my choices, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Home. Not the apartment. The apartment was just walls and floors and a roof. But this feeling, this sense of being exactly where I needed to be, doing exactly what I wanted to do, answerable to no one but myself, that was home. I'd spent 7 years trying to build a home with someone who saw it as a stage, a place to perform her version of a marriage for an audience of friends who never saw behind the curtain. Turned out I didn't need an audience. I just needed space to be myself. And 44 years old, divorced, starting over from scratch. I finally had it. Vanessa had declared new rules. I'd declared a new life. And every single day since, I'd been living it. The apartment was quiet now. Just the sound of the refrigerator humming, the distant city noise, my own breathing. I walked to the bedroom, my bedroom, painted the color I'd chosen, and got ready for bed. Tomorrow would come. And the day after. And the day after that. And I'd face them all the same way, free. July came, and with it the kind of heat that makes you forget winter ever existed. I started drinking my coffee on the balcony every morning before work, watching the sun come up over the city, listening to the birds, sparrows mostly, chattering in the trees below. The courtyard had flowers now. Someone had planted marigolds in the shared beds, bright orange against the dark soil. One morning, sitting there with my coffee going cold in my hands, I thought about marriage. What it's supposed to be versus what it was. Marriage is supposed to be two people pulling in the same direction. Ours was one person pulling while the other critiqued my grip. I'd learned things sitting in that half-empty apartment, rebuilding a life from receipts and boundaries and silence. Learned that silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's preparation. That patience isn't weakness, it's strategy. That leaving isn't failure, it's respect. For yourself, mostly. Some men stay in bad marriages their whole lives. I don't judge them. Everyone's timeline is different. Everyone's breaking point is their own. But I'm glad mine came when it did. 43 felt young enough to start over, old enough to know better next time. If there was a next time, I wasn't looking, wasn't ready, maybe wouldn't be for a while, but I was okay with that. The coffee went cold. I didn't mind. The morning was warm, smelling like fresh cut grass and someone's bacon cooking and the beginning of summer. A kid laughed in the courtyard. A car started up in the parking lot. Monday morning, life unfolding like it always did. My phone buzzed. Text from Quinn. Harper and I are grabbing lunch Saturday. Want to join? I smiled. Real friendship. No performance. Yeah, I'm free. I realized I meant both definitions of free. The apartment behind me was small. Smaller than what Vanessa and I had planned for. No house in the suburbs. No two-car garage. No white picket fence. Just a one-bedroom with a balcony and a coffee maker and walls painted the color I'd chosen. But it was mine. Every inch of it. Every decision. Every quiet morning. I'd spent 7 years trying to make someone else happy while forgetting to ask if I was. Turned out I could be. I stood up, stretched. The sun was higher now, warm on my face. Time to get ready for work. Time to load pallets and joke with Connor and live another simple, uncomplicated day. Time to keep building this small, honest life. Because I'd learned something else. Sitting here in the summer warmth, drinking cold coffee and listening to sparrows. The smallest life can be the biggest one. You just have to choose it. And I had.